does that actually mean if you're not involved with the son? If you're not married to the mother, then how are you going to be involved in your children's lives? Because blah, 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 blah.
Dumbasses.
I'm not with nobody, cause I don't wanna hurt nobody. Did it over text, didn't call me. Still got love for your mommy. I know you wanna be somebody, even if you gotta leave somebody.
So I already talked about the backlash that I received for stating the facts for some odd reason. We're gonna do a little statistical dump here, and let me show you where the Black community is in regards to these children out of wedlock and all this type of stuff, the living dynamics, things of that nature, right? So let me pull this up for you guys. And this is, all information that anybody can see. This is from blackdemographics.com. It's basically explaining how many households are headed by women in the Black community. So right here, as you guys can see, there's 27% of households headed by women, while there's only 37% of Black women that have given birth to children while married. This is not about Black men. This is about Black women and when they have their children. So when you guys hear these numbers about children out of wedlock, look at this. 63% of Black women have had children out of wedlock. 24% live below the poverty level compared to 14% of all women. So here, let me add some context to this, because when you see these numbers or these figures, you're like, well, what does that actually mean? They actually tell you. Black women are the head of 27% of all Black households in 2018, which is more than twice the rate for all women at 12%. Now, if you have an issue with it saying 2018, that's 5 years. It's 2013. That is a good data pool. I know y'all been to school. We got some educated folks in the building, right? If your professor asks for you to cite a reference, they'll sell you either 5 to 10 years. I don't even take the chance of doing 10 years. I try and get something more recent. So we're good. In 2018, which is more than twice the rate for all women at 12%. These are households defined by the U.S. Census Bureau as having a female head and no spouse present. Only 37% of Black women who gave birth were married, which is almost the opposite for all women at 66%. So all women have children within wedlock at 66%, but not Black women. These are some of the issues that factor into a much higher poverty rate of 24% for Black women compared to 14% poverty rate for all women. Let's keep going. Not done. Let me read this. Contrary to popular belief, 42% of Black children live with two parents compared to 70% of all children. Now, I know that number probably shocks you, and that's why they said contrary to popular belief. 42% of Black children live in a two-parent household of some sort, right? So when you start breaking it down, well, are they married? Are they cohabitating? Does it matter if they have two parents in the household? 42%. So that may be something that you guys didn't know. While 51% live with one parent compared to 25% of all children. The reason why this is not well known may have to do with a commonly repeated statistic regarding out of wedlock births, 70%, which only takes into account whether or not a woman was married at the time she gave birth. This, of course, doesn't factor in that many births take place to engaged or couples who are not married or plan to cohabitate indefinitely. Now, you see what that said? They're not using the children out of wedlock rates as a slight. They're just giving you a percentage of how many children are born out of wedlock. It doesn't mean that 70% of Black children aren't being taken care of, you dummies. What don't people understand that when you hear children out of wedlock, you automatically assume that these kids don't have parents? What the hell wrong with y'all? Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat. Put a one in the chat if that makes sense. People just run with this radical narrative. Oh, children out of wedlock. Yes, it is bad. We would rather have kids be born within marriage. Yes, it would make sense. Yes, I agree. But if the child is not born within wedlock and out of wedlock, they still are being taken care of, which is why Black men are being reported as the most involved. Dummies. Almost cuss, man. What the hell wrong with people? Why don't y'all read? Side note, I put this in there to add a little razzle dazzle. If we want to talk about absent fathers for the white men that's in the chat, there are 102 million white men in the U.S. That's 31%, with 20.7% in 2012. And I'm using 2012 because there was a guy in the comment section that used this as a reference. So I use the same reference against him. 2012 being absent fathers. This equates to 21.3 million white deadbeat fathers. A 16 million deadbeat father difference when compared to black men. Black men with 5.2 million. We good? Now, does that make sense? And although, let me address this. Yes, by percentage, black men lead. But a deadbeat father is a deadbeat father. The dominant race in the United States by population, and you have 20 million potential deadbeat fathers compared to 5 million. Do you think the kids or the mother that you had the kids with would care that black men lead by percentage? No. 20 million. So shut the fuck up when you're talking about black men. And I'm talking to you, white men who sit there and got a problem. Did you know that? Let's continue. And I'm not talking about all white men, just some men who had them slight and slick comments in my comment section on Facebook and on YouTube. I saw your asses. Yeah, I saw you. So let's look at the living arrangements. Two parents, like I said, 42%, more mother only, 46%. And then you have 5% of black men that are taking care of their kids. These are typically the same around all demographics. So if you say all demographics, they have 4% of men taking care of their children. So black men actually lead with the kids that they actually take care of. And then you have 7% up here living with the neither parent, and you have 4% for all children. 70% of all children have two-parent households. Yes, the black community can improve. However, this is not all attributed to black men. Let's see here. So these are the details, and they go in depth, and this is not something that I had to request. It's actually on the website. People can do the research for themselves. Living with two parents right there, married to each other at 38%, not married to each other, 4%. So there you go again. Like I said, when a kid is born out of wedlock or they're living with two parents, it does not necessarily mean that the two parents are married. 4% aren't married. Living with the mother only. This is how it's broken down. 31% never married, 7% divorced, separated, married spouse absent, 2% not married to each other. Okay, got that one. Living with father only. There's a 3%. It's really low right here. So it says 3%. Never married, married spouse absent at 1%, separated 1%, divorced 1%, widowed less than 1%, and then living with neither at 7%. You guys can see this, so I just read it out for you. Black families living at or below poverty level. So there, and let me bring myself up here and let me talk to black women for a second. So you guys saying that I'd rather be a single mother and I'll just make it work. You guys aren't doing too good. I'm gonna just tell you that right now. Everybody will tell you that a kid benefits more if they have two parents in the household. And I've seen a lot of black men say that, hey, sometimes me not being in my child's life, that was not my decision. Ladies, you got some speaking to do, because I know Texas, I believe, just passed a law where mothers are going to get fined $500 for keeping the kids away from the fathers.
Okay, so starting September 1st, your county or your municipality, of course, if you live in Texas, can now issue a fine up to $500 for those interfering with child custody orders. More specifically, Texas Family Code 157.551, also known as House Bill 969, is a code that you can look and read on your own about this new code that's coming into effect on September 1st. More specifically, the state of Texas is basically recognizing that the courts are backed up, and they understand that you litigants need a different way or a different remedy to enforce your child custody orders. Now listen, I don't know what this means for you, because Texas is actually leaving it up to the county or the municipality to enforce or bring this ordinance into play. But the way I see it, it's a win-win situation, because typically my clients or people that I talk to, when they're being denied possession of their child, they must file an enforcement with the court. However, Texas is now saying you can still file an enforcement with the court, but if someone is violating the child custody order, now they can be issued a fine. And I think this is wonderful for those parents who maybe they don't even have money to file an enforcement. So I got to call the baby mamas out. If you are withholding that child from their daddy, you better hope your county don't put this law into effect.
Yeah. So don't sit there and try and spin the narrative that all these black men are just deadbeats and they don't want to be in their children's lives. Absolutely not. There are too many stories of black men saying that they've been denied their children because the mother is bitter.
You don't know how to call first.
I did call you. I told you I was on the way, remember?
No.
I told you. Told you I was coming to get the kids for
No,
my
you
time.
did not.
Yes,
No,
I
you
did.
not.
And
You're
you
not
told me I'm not taking them.
Bye.
I got paperwork to let you know I get them.
I don't care. Bye.
That's how you want to do it?
Do it.
You sure?
I don't care. Bye. You're not getting them for no time because we ain't go to court for no damn time. The last time said every other weekend.
So I can't get my kids?
No. Bye.
Okay.
Go.
So ladies, that's something that you need to talk to your fellow sisters. Yeah, figure that out. Let's continue. Living at or below poverty. So you guys, I don't know if you can read that. I'll go ahead and do it for you. So female householder, no husband. That is the red. 74%. 74% female, no husband, living below poverty with kids. Married couple, only 16%. Male householder, no wife. Oh, would you look at here? 10% of black men who take care of their kids are only in poverty. That's the lowest of all groups. Did you guys know that? Did you guys know that black men who have custody of their kids take care of their kids more in regards to financially than any other group? Shocker, right? Black community, listen up. This is for y'all. Getting tired of this foolery. According to the CDC, 58%, remember, I only gave us 51%. 58% of black fathers live with one or more of their children. And even a larger majority, 72.7% of black fathers talk with their children about things that happen during the day several times a week or more, whether they live with the children or not. This is only one example that illustrates how fathers are involved with their children as opposed to fatherhood being defined by living arrangements. Y'all hear that? I'm going to pull myself up here again so we can be very clear. So the narrative is that if the black man is not in the household, not married to the woman, he's not taking care of the kids. The CDC has debunked this multiple times, but people fail to read. They just go with this narrative that all black men are deadbeats. But as you see right there, and it defines it even further, if y'all would actually read the study where they'll tell you what involvement actually means. They just listed off a couple of them, but they're putting it into perspective to make people understand that you don't have to be living with the mother to be involved in your children's lives. They're wrong with people. This is also an example of how the 70% out of wedlock statistic can be very misleading, especially when used to emphasize black fatherlessness. Doesn't that sound like something that I just addressed in my video with Larry Elder? Yeah. Man. Or policy and issues regarding the black family. These facts do not negate the real issues and challenges of black families and relationship issues within the black community. They just add context for a more productive study or discussion. Goodness. If it sounds like I'm yelling, guys, I'm sorry, but it has to be said. They just said it. We need to add context to the conversation, which is lacking in these spaces for some odd reason. We supposed to be intelligent people, right? I say that tongue in cheek, but it is what it is. My goodness. What's wrong with people? Up to this point, does all this stuff make sense? Guys, put a 1 in the chat if all this stuff that I'm saying is surrounded around black fatherlessness and children at a wedlock. Does this make sense? Is this palatable? Do I need to explain it a little further before I click this up and people look at it and be like, well, what? What are you talking about? Well, what about the black men? Almost cussed again. I want to put this actually from the census. It says, tragically, fatherlessness strongly correlates with negative outcomes in nearly every aspect of a child's life. Fatherless families are 25% more likely to raise a child in poverty. We just seen black women at 24%. Makes sense, right? More likely to raise a child in poverty, and 90% of all homeless and runaway children do not have a father. Additionally, 85% of children and teens with behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. Fatherless children also account for 71% of child substance abuse cases and approximately 70% of all use and operated state institutions. So let me explain what's going on here. Out of all the statistics that I've shown you guys, did you ever see one of those statistics say that this amount of black men have children? No. Where does that come from? It comes from the CDC. So anytime you guys hear anybody talking about children at a wedlock, you need to preface this conversation by saying, well, let me just say this. 46% of black men have ever fathered children. 54% of black men don't have children. So whatever numbers that you're going to try and pull out your ass, pull them from the 46%. Don't think that the majority of black men are involved in that, because they're not. So you remove the 54%, and then you can start chopping away at the 46%. And I know you guys aren't stupid enough who's ever going to look at this stuff and sit there and try and say it's not true. I know you're not stupid enough as to say that 46% of black men aren't involved in their children's lives. Absolutely not. We have proof that's saying that black men are the most involved. So like I said, once again, 23.5%, add that with the 54%, that is 77.5% of black men who don't have children and are in their children's lives involved. So any statistics or blame that you're going to place, look at the 22.5%. And I'm specifically talking to people who have large platforms like Larry Elder. You go on these spaces or these platforms. This is the second time that I've seen him do this on Van Lathan's Higher Learning podcast, and also when he was on the Breakfast Club. He just immediately starts talking about fatherlessness, but they never preface the conversation by saying 54% of black men don't have children. And of the black men that do have children, the majority are involved in their children's lives, whether they are married to the woman or not. That's what needs to be said. Yes, fatherlessness can be an issue for the minority. And that's when you need to start looking at the women. Who the hell are y'all choosing to have y'all children with? We already know that 59% of black women have multiple baby fathers by different men. That's not all attributed to black men. Black women have 4 million more children with non-black men. So where's the problem? Start with black women, because the majority of black men don't have kids or are doing what they need to do. So out of that small minority, yes, again, fatherlessness can be an issue. It is an issue. It's been identified. I agree. But make sure that you preface any comments, statements, or when you're asked a question about this, let people know that 54% of black men don't have children and the majority take care of their children, are in their children's lives. That's all I'm asking. I don't care about anything else. You can come back and you can sit there and question, well, I know black men that around my way that they have kids and they don't take care of them. I don't give a fuck about that. I don't give a fuck about none of that shit at all. Show me proof. Your anecdotal experience don't make sense to me. And if I see it in my comments or any of my platforms, you got to go, because you're not providing any statistics or nothing like that. You're just going off of what you heard, dummies.
How can I be sure that you'll be right for me? You say you'd die for me. Will you survive for me? Yeah.
Go ahead and make sure you click that link, get you some Teej Hanley, and support the Medium Man YouTube channel, and also support Teej Hanley.